Stroke is the third leading cause of death worldwide, right after a heart attack and cancer, and those people who survive a stroke are often disabled for life. With a stroke, time works disastrously against the person. If someone has a stroke, it counts for hours, and to stop this irreversible process, you need to respond as quickly as possible. And the sooner help is given, the better the chances of survival, or of saving your health. So how do you recognize a stroke in its early stages? These signs are there, and they are something that everyone needs to know. So watch this video to the end, and maybe it can come in handy after all. Let's get started. By the way, be sure to subscribe to our channel and click on the bell to not miss our new videos. So what is a stroke? A stroke is a situation where at some point blood stops flowing to some part of the brain, and the brain can't go without oxygen because that instantly leads to its death, and it's caused by vascular disease. Somewhere in the wider artery, a clot may have formed. Then it traveled to the brain into a narrower artery, and because it's quite large, it could have formed a blockage in that area. And as a result, an entire section of the brain could lose a literal supply of blood. But strokes don't just happen for no reason. It always has causes, and those causes have a long history and background. That is, over many years, these vascular diseases accumulated and developed, and at some point, they caused a catastrophe. But of course, there were causes and there were some symptoms too. People just often don't pay attention to them. There is even such a thing as a microstroke, and a microstroke can sometimes even go completely unnoticed. That is, the person felt kind of bad, something not good. But he laid down for a while, took a rest, and went back to work, and forgot about it. And a person can live like that, but a microstroke was the first signal for him. This is an early warning that later it could be a full-blown stroke. So first, I'm going to talk about the early signals that can tell you that a stroke is coming. And then I'll talk directly about the signals of the stroke itself, that it's already happening. So the first signal may be a harbinger of a future stroke. It's numbness of the extremities. That is, you feel that the hands or the feet are going numb more often than they were before. It is a deterioration of memory and attention. If you've noticed that you've started to forget something quite often, you've started to lose your thoughts somehow. This also happened before, and in principle, it is normal for people to have it, but you notice that it happens much more often than before. If the tinnitus came on quite abruptly and it doesn't go away, it wasn't there before. If you have changes in speech, that is, some turns or phrases or words you cannot pronounce, also, an early precursor may be a deterioration of vision or hearing. Fainting can also be a rather telling signal. If you don't normally and then faint once a week, that's also a signal. And of course, dizziness occurs systematically. If two or more of these symptoms start to occur at a frequency of once a week or more frequently, if it goes on for 2 months or more, then it can be assumed from this that this is a real precursor to an oncoming stroke. And there are two components to analyze at once. The first one is whether you are hypertensive. You have to know your blood pressure. It should not be higher than 140/90, because 140/90 is already hypertension. The ideal is 120/80. And the second thing you need to know is whether you have atherosclerosis. The most direct way to check if you have atherosclerosis is to do two things. The first is to get a cholesterol test, and the second is to get an ultrasound of your neck vessels. Because the carotid artery is so conveniently located, an ultrasound can see what its lumen is and what its overall condition is. And if the carotid artery is clogged with cholesterol plaques, then you can conclude with a very high probability that all the other arteries are also clogged. That is, it is a general condition of the body. Once again, to reinforce the information, if once a week for 2 months or more any of these symptoms recur, numbness of the limbs, impaired memory, tinnitus, changes in speech, impaired vision or speech, dizziness, and fainting. If you also have hypertension or atherosclerosis, you need to take action. You need to go to the doctor for an examination and to work out certain solutions, which will be prescribed to you by a specialist. Now, let's talk about what happens during a stroke, or literally before it starts. In general, the symptomatology is similar, but the peculiarity is that it will be much sharper and more pronounced. So it's probably a sharp headache. It's a dramatic deterioration of vision. Maybe either eye will stop seeing completely, or there could be tunnel vision syndrome, where everything becomes dark around the edges and only what's in the middle is visible. It can be sudden numbness of the arm or leg or one part of the face. It can be severe impairment of coordination of movements. The most insidious thing here is that sometimes a person can endure this stroke. That is, a person doesn't like to go to the doctor, he is used to enduring all pain, and in 3 hours, something bad may happen. And with a stroke, you can't delay. It is necessary to immediately go to a doctor, the sooner the better. The earlier help will be rendered, and the higher chances for a favorable outcome. There is one very simple and straightforward technique that everyone should remember, because even if you are young and healthy, you probably have loved ones who are at risk for stroke. These are just 4 words to remember: smile, movement, articulation, and decision. Memorize these words, and they may have to be used someday. What do they mean? The first word is smile. If the person has symptoms of a stroke, ask him or her to smile. In a normal situation, the person can smile symmetrically. If the person's smile is unnatural to them, asymmetrical, one-sided, that is a very bad sign. Movement. Ask the person to raise both arms at the same time and see how good his or her coordination of movement is. If the person can't stand straight and synchronized at the same time, raise both arms calmly. That's also a very sure sign. Articulation. You have to ask the person to say the word articulation. If he is unable to pronounce the word, that is also very telling. And the last word is decision. If the person has had problems with any of the previous 3 points, the decision is made to call an ambulance, and the doctor on the hotline should be told about these symptoms. There should be no self-medication here. There should be no hope that it will soon get better on its own. If there are the symptoms that I just described, then put the person on his side, because he may start vomiting. Open the vent so that there is normal oxygen circulation, and wait for the ambulance to arrive. Or, as an option, take him to the hospital yourself, if that is preferable in your situation. And by the way, it would be extremely dangerous if the person is experiencing these symptoms themselves, or try to get to the hospital on their own. Of course, it is always better for a sick person to have someone to help them, although it is understandable that there are different situations in life. And now it's a very important moment. Share this video with your friends, because knowing how to recognize a stroke is very important. It could save someone's life, and the more people who know about it, the safer our world will be. So share this video, and now you'll also find it very important and interesting to watch my other video where I talk about how to maintain vascular health, because that's going to directly affect stroke and heart attack prevention, what you need to know, what you need to do to live a long and happy life. And in this video, I shared these valuable tips. The link to this video just appeared on the screen, and I left the link in the description as well. Be sure to watch it. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel. And see you in my video about vascular health.